Perfect. So today we're going to take a tour of Four Seasons Brewing Company, the equipment they have, and going to go through a brew day, you know, hanging out for a day at Four Seasons Brewery. So there's a 3-barrel brew house. Very easy. I got a hot liquor tank right here. Holds 3 barrels of liquid. Got a mash tun and a boil kettle. And from there on we got a heat exchanger to cool down the wort after it gets done boiling. And then here is all the fermenters. We got 4 of them total. I'm sorry, actually there's 6. Each are 7 barrels apiece. And then we got 2 bright tanks on the end. All right, so here's the grain mill. This is where we crush all the grain at. Gets down in there, fits like 2 50-pound bags at a time, and it gets augered up through this PVC pipe up here to the top, and that gets dropped down into the mash tun. The mash tun is 3-barrel, so is the brew house, or the rest of the brew house, the kettle, and the hot liquor tank. They're both 3-barrel.
So this here is the actual control panel that controls all of the heat and power to the kettles. So as you can see, there's a bunch of different breakers in here for safety, and towards the bottom there we have a bunch of like relays to turn things on and off really quick. So here's the boil kettle. There's 4 heating elements in here that each run off 220 or 240 volt, and then right next to that we have the mash tun, which down in here there's a false bottom with a rubber grommet to keep the grain from coming out when we go to mash. And then right here is the hot liquor tank, which right now is already filled with the hot water that we're getting ready to use to start the mash and start the process.
All right, this here is the actual control panel that controls all of the glycol chilling for each fermenter in the bright tank. So we have all these PIDs. You have your set value and your present value of what each tank is, and they're labeled. So this is B1, B2, fermenter 1, fermenter 2. These are the 2 bright tanks. This all goes back to over here behind me into each of these, and that's how we keep the temperature controlled.
Alright, so this is the inside of the cooling panel that controls the glycol. Here's all the wiring for the PIDs and the lights and switches. And this all gets distributed out here in the back, which then goes out through the temperature probes hooked into the bottom, and they all go back to each tank behind me that will then turn a solenoid valve on and off up on top, and I'll show you that. So right here is where the glycol actually comes in at from the outside chiller. Goes up the wall here and gets pumped down above all the tanks. So if we go down here and we can take a look, you'll see that there's a hose coming down from each solenoid valve down to the in and out of each tank. And the way it basically works is the glycol constantly loops in a circle around above the tanks. When the panel calls for cooling, it'll open one of the solenoids and it'll drop down to the tank. Right here we have a thermometer and a pressure gauge telling us how much pressure is in the actual system. So right now what we're doing is we're getting ready and prepping the mash tun in order to start the mashing process. So the mill's over there is going to come up the pipe and get augered in. And right now Mark's actually connecting a valve that's a hydrator, so it'll hydrate the grain as it comes down from the auger. So there's a top clamp and a bottom clamp, and that secures the valve between the lid of the tank and the actual hose from the auger. And then this hose here connects to the water in. This is going to be coming from the hot liquor tank, and this will actually go to the valve and spread the water out as the drain is dropping. So it comes out of the bottom of the hot liquor tank, right here, and then goes up and into that valve that's going to hydrate that grain. So we're going to fill the tank while we're actually adding grain.
So now we're going to get ready here to start milling our grain. About 175 pounds. So we'll throw it down here into the mill, and then from there it gets augered up through that pipe and into the mash tun. There's a motor up there that actually pulls the grain out from the mill as it gets crushed, drops down, and then it hits some water in that valve, and then we'll fill it up as we crush it.
So here's a close-up of the grain we're going to be using. This is a 2-row barley, so it's not really roasted, it's just straight normal grain, just dried out and cured. This is what we're going to be adding in today, along with some specialty grains. So here we go, we're getting ready to start up the mill, and we're going to start adding in the grain to get the process going. So here you can actually see how the mill's pulling in the grain. It keeps taking out from the middle until eventually it'll all completely be emptied. So this is getting grounded up right now, and it's getting augered out from the bottom up towards the actual mash tun. So here's a look inside the mash tun as it's getting filled up. You can see that the grain and water is being mixed right there through that valve, and we're adding both in together so you don't have to stir. The mill's almost done, and now we just gotta shut it down. So we got our temperature where we want it to be, about 152 to 154. The grain's rested and ready to go, so now we just gotta wait an hour to get the enzymes working and start creating our conversion. So let's wait.
What we do here is go back.
So right now what we're doing is we're actually getting the boil off done. So we're recirculating out of the mash tun back in at a slow speed. And while we wait for that to get done, we'll start adding in the yeast. So here we go, we're gonna pour this in now. And there it goes. This is all recaptured like one of the last batches, so constantly try to use it for a couple times. And that's about it. So it's in there, and there's already some beer in there from the first one. It takes us 2 runs to fill one of these tanks. So now we're gonna clean this thing out, rinse it out real quick, and then get ready to start transferring over to the actual kettle. So as you can see here, we got some liquid coming in. This is a good beer coming from the mash tun. It's being transferred in right now just with gravity. The pump's not assisting it at all. It's coming in from the mash tun through the pump, and then through that filter. So right now we're about quarter way filled, and we'll start sparging. So here's the actual sparge arm as it's adding water in. At this point we have the pump pulling some liquid out, and here's another shot of that towards the end of our process to mash out. Alright, so the transfer's complete, the kettle's totally full, so now what we're going to do is we're going to drain the extra liquid out of the mash tun. So we're going to disconnect all the hoses, get that spare liquid out so we can get the grain out of there. And we're also going to connect this drain hose so we don't have to make a mess all over the floor. It'll go straight to the floor drain. And there we go. We got liquid coming out. This is just the extra stuff we didn't need. And you'll see that this will start drying out. Now we're going to take off this filter and rinse it out. It's going to have some grain and some debris in it. And it just comes apart just like that. You've got to hose it down because it's hot, and we'll knock off all this dirt, give it a good rinse so it's ready for the next run. Here's a look at the kettle. It's boiling pretty good, so we'll get ready to put the hops in shortly.
So we're getting ready to mash out. There's roughly 175 pounds of grain in here, which is a lot.
All right, in order to mash out, we gotta open up this hatch here in the front in order to let the grain out so we can get a shovel in there and shovel all the rest of it out of there. It's in there pretty tight. You can see that there's a good bit, so it'll take a little bit of time. But once we get this out, we can hose it down and get it cleaned up. Got the false bottom out of the mash tun now, and as you can see, it's covered in a bunch of grain particles and husks. So we'll have to give this a quick rinse to get it clean, and we'll get it back into the mash tun. This is what the mash tun looks like, so we're going to have to rinse this out next. Mash out's complete, so it's all in the barrels, it's filled. We're going to stick it outside, and a local farmer comes to pick it up to use it so it doesn't go to waste. Now that that's out of the way, we're going to get the caustic rinse going. So the whole entire setup gets back flushed with caustic water. It takes about 7 gallons. We just dump it in here. We get the pump going, and as the pump starts, it'll pull in the extra air out of the lines, and we'll add a little bit more water in, and then get our caustic in there and let it flush for roughly 10 minutes or so, just to make sure all the lines are clean and free of debris. Here's the caustic that gets used. It comes in a big 55-gallon drum, so we just got to pump it out here and then take it over to the little tank and dump it in. Alright, it's been about 15 minutes. The kettle's at the temperature we need. It's got a good rolling boil. We got through the hop break, and it's time to add the 60-minute hop. You can see we're at 210. Grab this, I'm going to throw it right in. As it starts to break apart, you can see it creates a pretty big hop cake on the side of the kettle. Now we just wait again for another 60 minutes. Now the caustic cycle is complete, so we're going to get ready and start the sanitary cycle, where we're going to add our peracetic acid to sanitize the line. We're just going to fill it up with some water from the hose, get it going, get the pump going. And then we'll grab our peracetic acid. We're just going to pump it out of these 20-gallon tanks. Or not, sorry, not 20 gallon, maybe 5. So there we go, we dump it in and let that go for a couple more minutes while we wait for the boil to finish.
We know you're looking at us.
Specialist.
Boil's finished, so now it's time to collect our sample. And we're going to fill this up, and we'll take it over to where we can put our hydrometer in to see what our gravity is right now. Okay, we dump it in. This thing's actually really cool. So what it does is it allows us to put the hot wort inside the middle, and on the outside it flushes water around to cool it down quick. You can see the water coming out of that blue hose as it's getting pushed through. And we'll take our reading. Alright, so the boil's complete, and we're now transferring out the heart port from the boil kettle. So it's gone out of the bottom through the pump, and then into the heat exchanger where it's getting knocked out.
You gotta love winter.
So the parasitic acid is left in the lines getting pushed out, and the beer's beginning to come into the bottom of the fermenter, as you can see. So we're filling up from the bottom, and now as we're doing that, we got pressure coming out through the blow-off valve into the bucket. So we transferred all the good wort we wanted, and now we're going to get rid of the extra hops in the bottom of the kettle. They just get drained out into the floor drain, so we can begin cleaning up the kettle. And we're almost empty. Alright, now it's time to backwash the lines that we just pumped the beer through. So we have a hose going in, it's going through all the lines and back out. We'll do that for a couple of minutes, and then we'll go and we'll actually rinse the kettle out, as we're starting to do right here. Alright, now we've got that kettle first rinse, so we'll hook up the backwash again and flush water again through all the hoses in the heat exchanger to make sure it's cleaned out properly for the next brew. Now it's time to check our hydrometer reading. The wort that we put in there earlier is cooled down enough, so we'll see where we end up here. And it looks like it might be about 0.48, maybe 5. And there we go, we got a nice clean kettle after all the rinsing. And that about wraps it up for the brew day. I'd like to thank everybody for watching the video and checking it out. I know it's been a little bit longer than my usual stuff. Special thanks to Four Seasons. Stop on in if you haven't been there yet. They got a fabulous list of beer. It's a great atmosphere in the place too. Every weekend normally got some food trucks and live music, so feel free to stop on in. I appreciate you watching the video. If you guys can, give it a like if you liked it. If you didn't, give it a dislike. And don't forget to subscribe for some more content like this and some other things I cover. Thanks again.
Yeah? No? Yeah, that's a nod.
Floss.